Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Antwon here once more with another episode of Help for the Guildless, and do I have one doozy of an episode. I had a friend of mine bring this to my attention, and I noticed as I was looking for it, it actually has made its way through the YouTubes, and I plan on doing a response like everyone else. I actually plan on answering questions. Maybe if we answer these questions enough, these idiots will actually listen for once. Now, this video is 14 and a half minutes long. There's an issue with that. As you saw with Unboxing Masculinity, that video was only about 3 minutes, give or take. And my response to it was almost 30. So, if this takes too bloody long to respond, I will be chopping it up into bits. Now, I've watched this video once already, and I'm not going to lie. I wasn't triggered per se, but I definitely had my jimmies rustled with some of these inane questions. And I'm going to do what I did last time. I'm going to watch the video with you and answer each question as it comes up. Hopefully we can get some of these SJWs to actually listen to the answers this time. So I want to thank Brian from the Honey Badgers for bringing this to my attention. So, I guess we should start, should we not? Here we go. So they're going to be doing this in the form of Buzzfeed, something that's been made super popular as of late. Buzzfeed likes to do these gotcha videos with these questions that people have for white people or black people or SJWs or whatever. Do people still use the term poning? I thought that was early 2000s, like the double aughts. Am I still behind the times? I thought I was ahead of this. I guess I was wrong. Well, as you can see, this is general questions, so I guess let's get started. Again? I said that once already, didn't I? I did.
Are you able to understand the irony of responding to the perceived political correctness of the left with exasperated reactionary hypersensitivity of your own?
The short answer, of course, is there is no irony. We're just responding to you in kind. Now, I know what we're saying is kind of like you started it, we're just responding. And the ones who do the responding are usually the ones that get in trouble. That's how it was in school, and that's pretty much how it is all the way through life. Someone throws shit, and then when it gets thrown back, they cry oppression or harassment, and, well, they get showered with praise for being strong. So what we're actually doing is taking a stronger stance than you, knowing that we are the ones that look bad. I hope that answers your question.
What is it with you people and skulls?
Skulls are awesome.
How do you define right-wing? Anti-SJWs often have an aversion to being labelled as right-wing, yet they regularly defend the right and bash the left. Therefore, why is being labelled right-wing a bad thing to you? And if it's because right-wing is used as a pejorative, can you not see how labelling people as SJWs or regressives is also pejorative?
I have a problem with being labelled right-wing because I'm not right-wing. Yes, I'm a conservative at heart, but I do have liberal ideas. And I do have liberal leanings. That does not make me right-wing. Unfortunately, it puts me in a grey area that people don't understand. Now, using the term SJW as a pejorative is more or less using it as a label, as a grouping. You see, you call us right-wing to group us with a certain type of person. When we say the term SJW, social justice warrior, we are labeling you to put you into a group that allows us to generalize, just like you do. Yes, it is used as a pejorative, but so is right-wing, so is left-wing. Technically, anything can be used as a pejorative if you put enough emphasis on it. So, that's why we have problems being labeled right-wing, because we are not. Not all of us who disagree with you happen to be part of that party.
Rather than telling people you disagree with to drink bleach, wouldn't it be more productive for you to have an actual conversation about the issues you feel matter? Or is it just easier to do the bleach thing?
Apparently, you don't understand the term hyperbole, or being hyperbolic. When one is told to drink bleach, or kill yourself, or I hope you die in a fire, we're not actually hoping you do those things. We've tried to have conversations with you, and when we do try to have a open discourse of ideas, what ends up happening is we get hashtags like masculinity so fragile and kill all men. Or we get white tears, male tears. Or, a cartoon frog gets labeled as a hate symbol. You see, we've tried having just conversations with you. You don't want to listen.
You claim to be proponents of rational, logical, evidence-based argumentation. That's great. That's entirely laudable. But when I look at your online activity, when I look at, for example, your Twitter feed, that's often not what I see. How do you reconcile this claim to be evidence-based and rational and logical against stuff like, oh, I was just trolling you, oh, I was just shitposting, or TLDR?
This one's actually quite simple. Unlike you all, we do enjoy having fun. And every once in a while, we do want to just get it over with and shitpost. We want to try and get under someone's skin on purpose. So yes, we do go out and troll. The problem is, you make it so easy to do it. You make it so easy because of how reactionary and knee-jerk you are to things we say. The last SJW wanted to know why we don't have an open discourse. Because you don't understand humor. Everything we say has to be, absolutely has to be the utmost true, so you can get a gotcha moment on us. Look what so-and-so said. Oh my god. Let's take it out of context, though, and just show what he said, instead of the conversation leading up to it. If you actually paid attention to the conversation and not tried to just get a gotcha moment on most of us, you would see that we are actually quite entertaining. It's why there are YouTube channels that are anti-SJW and anti-feminist that have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Because we're entertaining. We don't take everything seriously. We are not on all the time. There are times where we just want to be people. That's why things like that happen. The problem is you don't understand that. And you in turn take it and send wave after wave of social justice whiners to attack that person. But no, it's fine, it's fine. You don't understand fun, you never have, and you don't want other people who you don't like to have fun. So that's why. That's why that happens.
No, seriously? What is it with you people and skulls?
Alright, you've asked twice. So I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Skulls are fucking awesome. Look, they have symbolism. Yorick from Hamlet. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well. Skulls symbolize things, and sometimes they're scary. They can be edgy too. Yes, you can be a tryhard with a skull, but at the same time, it's just a design choice. Now, if someone likes the way skulls look, that's not necessarily a bad thing. One of the greatest secret societies is called the Skull and Bones. It's just a symbol. That's all it is, a calling card. And not all of us use skulls. Although some of us do, not all of us do. It's not that big of a deal. I understand you're trying to be funny. You're actually quite annoying more than anything. Get to a real question.
Are you aware that the ridiculous buzzwords you helped to popularize, like SJW and cuck and regressive, have all lost whatever meaning they once had and only serve now as casual insults and pejoratives to derail any meaningful conversation?
You want to talk terminology? Losing what it really means? Okay, let's talk terminology. Let's talk about buzzwords that are used to derail conversations. Racist, misogynist, sexist, homophobe, Islamophobe, transphobe, trans anything really. All of those words, even rapist and the term rape itself, have been belittled. Harassment doesn't mean harassment anymore. You want a term like cyber violence to be real. You are the bunch that are redefining words. You brought up 3, I brought up 7, if not more. You brought up SJW as a pejorative. I talked about this already. It's a generalization of your type. The knee-jerk reactionaries that want safe spaces and people to take care of them instead of actually growing up and being a person. Cuck. Okay, look. Being cuckold, what does that mean? It means that you are cheated on by someone else, by having sex with your wife. It's actually a fetish where guys like this. Why is it an insult? Because you like flogging yourselves for the people that are of the higher ups in the oppression pyramid. You like being in pain and talking down about yourself and talking down about your race, your gender, your sexuality, even your humor. And regressive? It's because what you are. Anita Sarkeesian was promoting for segregation in schools where people were fighting against it 50 plus years ago. You want to harken back to a time where blacks and whites were not allowed to play together because you didn't feel safe. You want racism. That's why you're regressive. Those 3 terms derail important conversations? No. Your terms try and derail conversations. You want people to be labeled as a rapist or a sexist. And I recognize this fuck. This is the one that wants bettering thrown off the internet. You look like a poor man's Tom Selleck. You realize this was going to go out to thousands of people on YouTube. Could you not actually, I don't know, put some clothes on?
For the last time, what is it with you people and committing actual literal felonies? Like, you might want to work on that? I mean, I thought the Ralph retort was so rational when he was fantasizing about beating up women with dyed hair, but Then he assaulted a police officer, and finally I was convinced.
This is where you want to go? You want the Ralph retort, Ethan Ralph, to be the hill you die on? Okay. You bring up one example of a man who got drunk, who has gone on record saying he has a drinking problem, and attacked a police officer who he will be serving his due time for. That's who you want to use as proof, as an example of all anti-SJWs? Okay, alright. Here, I'll give you a couple of examples that we can use as a blanket proof example of what all SJWs are. Sarah Butts, Sarah Nyberg, a transgendered male to female woman who is an openly admitted pedophile. Hannibal the Victor, who was a big SJW when the whole thing happened between Thunderfoot and Laughing Witch. Oh look, he was arrested under pedophilia. Randy Harper, well, she created a block bot and used her bullying tactics to actually attempt to get people fired. She put up so much of a bitch fit that Milo Yiannopoulos actually did a 3-part series on tearing her apart. Brianna Wu, well, she was proven to not have fled her home. She was caught trying to bully herself on Steam and, well, pretty much doxed herself with telling people while she was supposed to be running for her life exactly where she was. Oh, and then let's not forget the Queen Bee, Zoe Quinn, who is also an avid bully, to the point where she got the Fine Young Capitalists shut down. And she has been openly talking about a game jam that she decided she was going to destroy because she didn't like how it was going. And speaking of Zoe Quinn, let's talk a little bit more about perfect examples of your ilk. The con leaks. And what I mean by con, I don't mean Confidence Man. I mean the Crash Override network leaks, where it was basically shown through Skype chat that all of the heads of Crash Override, including people like Izzy Galvez, were openly calling for harassment, doxing, bullying, and attempting to get people fired. But yes, let's just bring up Ralph, shall we? The one person who admittedly has a problem and fell off the wagon. Leigh Alexander was another one of your generals in this war against anti-SJWs. A drunk who not only got fired, but went to a new site and started begging her followers for money. Yes, let's go ahead and talk about Ralph. Now, I know when I say she was fired, it's not actually her being fired. She stepped down. When someone steps down like that and they're in that position, it's because they were either told that they are going to be publicly fired or they can publicly step down with benefits. But yes, Ralph got drunk and is paying for his crimes, whereas the people that I mentioned haven't had anything happen to them whatsoever. Actually, 3 of those people, well, okay, 2 of those people are working with Google and Twitter. One of them is being backed by Anita Sarkeesian. But yes, let's talk about Ralph. Let's go ahead and talk about Ralph, you fucking moron.
In videos and in the comment sections, anti-feminists often take up the most extreme or the weakest feminist position they can find, or they just straight up misrepresent what the feminist position is. Instead, why not take up the strongest, most robust feminist argument you can find and really challenge yourself?
We do try to talk about the real issues. Now, we've brought up the wage gap, since we are dealing with feminist questions now. Which is not a wage gap, it's an earnings gap. I don't want to go through it again and again and again. It's been debunked hundreds of times. Yet you keep bringing it up. That's right, the men's rights activists don't bring it up. Anti-SJWs don't bring it up. Anti-feminists don't bring it up. The only time that we bring it up is when you bring it up, and that's for us to debunk it again. Alright, the second one. The sentencing gap, which is a real thing when men convicted of the same crime are sentenced 75% more than women. And if you want anything close to examples, look at the rash strain of women that have been now convicted of raping little boys and teenagers. There was a woman recently who had sex with 3 different men, or young boys, as their teacher. What did she get? A slap on the wrist. If that was a man and it was 3 young girls, he'd be put away for life without being able to see the outside. There is a huge mistreatment of justice in the legal system when it comes to men and what rights they do have. Oh, and let's talk about that. Women's rights. Name one right that a man has that a woman doesn't. Because I can name a couple that men don't have that women do. One of the big ones, which is not my issue, but it is a couple of people's issue, is bodily autonomy. There is laws against female genital mutilation, but there are no laws against male genital mutilation. Circumcision is actually pushed by doctors. But, that's not an issue. Not at all. Okay, you want to talk about your body, your rights? Okay, here's a right. Women have the right to their bodies, and they can say whatever they want about them. If that means a man has sex with her, it's a one-night stand, and she is the one who lied to him about, I don't know, birth control or something like that, or let's just say both of them were stupid and had sex unprotected. It happens. She gets pregnant. She decides, well, I slept with him, he makes millions of dollars, I'm going to keep the baby. I'm going to force him to pay me for it. A man cannot opt out. And the response that is most given for that is, well, he should have kept it in his pants. And if you then say in response, well, she should have kept her legs together, you get, how dare you? How sexist of you? A woman can't express her sexuality? And then, going with that, divorce settlements. Women are almost about 80% more likely to be awarded custody of children, even if they are not fit to be a mother. It is very rare that a father can fight for custody for his child, and if he does get it, the mother can move without them knowing, and if he tries to say something, well, you need to get court order. We do talk about these issues. And all of them get responses that are benign from your side. Again, I bring up male tears. Masculinity is so fragile. We get told that we're toxic. We get told that we're rapists from birth. But no, we don't talk about anything serious. When we get tired of beating our head into a wall about these issues, yes, we go after something easy to pick apart. Because that's what you guys are harping about. Oh, and Another excuse we get for these issues, the wage gap, the sentencing gap, divorce rates. Oh, well, feminism is working on that too. No, you're not! Yes, this is why we talk about smaller issues. Because the smaller issues are the ones that are getting the attention!
I am deeply concerned with male addiction rates, suicide rates, and abuse rates, because I have worked with these issues in the quote-unquote real world. Would you be willing as anti-feminists to put aside your differences with feminists for the greater good of addressing these issues, especially as the kind of solutions needed are not necessarily gendered? And if so, I would actually like you to let me know, because I'm not fucking around or presenting any gotchas here. I actually really think that we could get something done if we work together. So, yeah.
This is Chrisiosity. I actually have to respect her a little bit. She wants to talk about something real, not skulls. Let's talk about suicide. Suicide rates in men are extraordinarily high, but we don't hear about it. Would I be willing to set aside my differences with feminists and SJWs if we could curb this and not have many men die? Yes. I would definitely be able to curb my frustration with your group to try and solve things. But that's not what happens. What happens is we get articles like women's suicide attempts are skyrocketing. You see this a lot. It's always about the effects of women. We had one recently. It was talking about global warming and how it affects women more. And yes, it was a stupid article, but it was still there. A recent article came out about the homeless population. The homeless population is now about 20% women. Why are so many women homeless? Of course, this is missing the glaring representation of 80% men being homeless. World ending, women affected more. That's why. Because the media bias is towards women. The social bias is towards women. If we could actually fix the problem, I would set aside everything. I would shake hands with everybody. I would kiss the ring of Anita Sarkeesian if we could get things better for men. I know too many men that are super depressed. And when I mean super, I don't mean, oh, cape and everything like that, I'm super depressed. I mean, they are down in the dumps. And why are they down in the dumps? They see their issues being thrown aside by higher ups. They see their jobs being replaced. Men, most men, are told their entire lives that you are supposed to protect women. You're supposed to raise a family. You're supposed to take responsibility for everything. You are supposed to have the weight of the world as a burden on your shoulders, and your shoulders alone. And coming from someone who has attempted suicide, that burden never goes away. And when we do try and talk about our burden, we get things like masculinity so fragile. So yes, if you have a way to set aside differences and fix this problem, I'm all ears.
What is third wave feminism? Because I've often heard you folks insist that you have no objection to feminism in general. It's specifically third wave feminism that you have a quarrel with. So what is third wave feminism specifically? And what specifically about third wave feminism do you have such a problem with?
Oh look, it's Steve Shives. I almost forgot he existed. I mean, his channel has been doing so well recently. Third wave feminists. Well, the first wave, of course, the suffragettes. The second wave, of course, the bra burners and the peacekeepers and the love, free love for everyone of the 70s. Third wave feminists. They're the ones that have to have a reason to be offended. They're the ones that have to have a reason to be in the media, in the public light. The ones that see sexism in everything. Everything is racist, everything is homophobic, everything is sexist, and I have to point it all out. And I have to make you feel horrible for it. The body positivity movement is third wave feminism. Political correctness culture is third wave feminism. Safe spaces are third wave feminism. The theory that men are infantile and weak is third wave feminism. The theory that masculinity is so toxic it will destroy the world is third wave feminism. The feeling of women being superior to men, not equal, superior, is third wave feminism. I hope that answers your question.
Why is it that this feminist represents all feminists, but this men's rights activist doesn't represent all men's rights activists?
Whoa, wait, sexism all of a sudden? Ladies and men are different? So we're supposed to punch men and not hit ladies and open doors for men, but not ladies? Fuck you, get out of my face, you tiny piece of shit.
Well, one is ranting at McDonald's or whatever, a fast food place, to being videotaped and is probably going to be made fun of. The other was trying to shut down a speaker. Not just one speaker, 3 speakers that were invited to a campus that people paid money to see. You see, the people in the restaurant didn't pay to see the cashier. They go in, get their food and leave. Trigglypuff, I love that name. Trigglypuff went with the specific intention to cause a disruption to a place where she knew they were going to talk about things she did not want to hear. She knew that she was going to a place that was going to, quote-unquote, trigger her. Yes, the man at the restaurant is a piece of shit, if that was the only reason that they ran out of chicken, that he decided to call the cashier a bitch. Trigglypuff, on the other hand, well, she actively sought out what was going to upset her. And when it did upset her, she went and asked and begged and pleaded for help because she was oppressed, she was offended. This stuff doesn't fly. Keep this hate speech off our campus. That's the difference. You see, a men's rights activist does not actively go out, at least the ones that I have seen, does not actively go out to try and disrupt feminist protests or feminist speakers. As a matter of fact, men's rights activists actually try to fucking talk to them. Whereas people like Trigglypuff, they don't want to hear anything except that they're right and you're wrong. You want another example? Big Red. And when she got internet famous because of her actions, the internet was to blame, not her, not her choice, not her actions, of course not. Her actions are just. Her actions are right. It was everyone else. That's the difference. Because there are too many Trigglypuffs and Big Reds, and not enough chicken men.
Why am I continually asked to answer for the views of feminists if I agree with feminism's overall aims, but don't agree much with those particular feminists? Does that mean that I can ask you to answer for anybody who labels themselves similarly to you, even if you don't agree much?
Is it right or is it fair? No, it's not. But that's what you do for us. That's what you do to us. A perfect example. Slavery. You SJWs want us to answer for our ancestors. We had nothing to do with it. But we're being held accountable for their actions, so we are in turn doing what you do in kind. You want us to be held accountable for our actions, you have to be held accountable for yours. This is a two-way street. You do not get to point the finger at us and not realize there are 3 more pointing back at you. It's a little bit of projection, don't you think?
If SJWs are bad because they spend too much time whining and don't talk about real problems, then why aren't you talking about those problems instead of just whining about the other people over and over and over for literally years? I mean, in the scale of priorities, that's like even lower, right? You know, you've got the real problems, you've got the things that feminists worry about, and then you've got you going, oh, how dare they? Just how dare they have different priorities from me? Why can't they do what I do? Whine about whining forever for a living. That's healthy.
This question was answered already when it brought up why don't we bring up serious issues? You guys are repeating yourself. We do talk about real things, but when we go to talk about them, we get people complaining. So we respond to the complainers. That's what this is. That's how YouTube works. You say something, I respond, and then you respond. Do you not know how this works? You have a YouTube channel, I'm assuming you're on this video. It's how it works. Now, I've seen SJWs and people and anti-SJWs go back and forth on menial things, but I've also seen them have serious conversations about real things without getting upset with each other. So, on your list, you have real issues, things that feminists complain about, and then things that anti-SJWs complain about. Well, that still means that feminists are not talking about real issues either. I can't... This already is going on way too long, and I still have a good, 9 minutes left. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to stop this here. I'm going to split this into 2 parts, if I can, maybe 3. I'm spent, I'm upset, and I'm not even afraid to admit that, yes, my jimmies were rustled. Because the questions are inane. And this dumb bugger continually tries to be the funny one out of the group. Every single question he's asked, he's had a sense of levity to it, but his questions are stupid. His accusations are even more moronic. And on top of that, with this question, he's repeating one that Christy Winters already asked. I have to take a break. My name is Antwon. Thank you for listening. Please join me for part 2. I will have it posted as soon as I can. This has been Help for the Guildless. If you like what I had to say, please hit like, share, subscribe. If you didn't like what I had to say, let me know in the comments. By all means, please, let's start a discourse. You can follow me on Facebook, link below. You can also follow Cole on Twitch, Twitter, and Tumblr, the T's. I take the F, he takes the T's. I will come back to this as soon as I can, after I've had a very stiff drink and some time to calm down. Thank you for listening, everyone. Have a good night.